Okay, I'm going to show you all the steps I took to write this pretty font using Canva. So I don't have the best handwriting. I am not somebody who can do this freehand. So I had to come up with a different way. I'm going to show you how I use Canva to do it. So when you go into Canva, you can create a design. Really, you can get to whatever page you want. I just chose logos because I felt like I could find some fun fonts in there. I will say, if you're going to be using this method that I'm doing, you want to pick a font that is going to be easy to cut out. You will see here that I don't really pick one that's easy to cut out, and I end up changing my mind later to do one that's a little bigger, but we'll just stick with this because this is still the same process, even though I do change my mind on the font. So I found the font that I wanted, or that I thought I wanted. I type out the words, and then I make it bigger. Oh, I also want to say that I eyeball everything, so nothing's going to give precise measurements, so I'm sorry. But I zoom into one word, screenshot it, go over to the other one, do the same thing, zoom in, screenshot it, and then I go over to my photos, I edit it so that I can crop it down, and then I turn it sideways. So the reason I'm turning it sideways is because when I go to print it, then it will be sideways, like lengthwise on the piece of paper, which just means it'll be bigger, which is what I want. Okay, so I have them both edited the way that I want, and now I'm going to print from my phone. So my printer is attached to Bluetooth, so I can just send it right from my phone and print it. Again, a lot of eyeballing. I went back and forth to that piece of wood and held up the paper so that I could see if it fit, and I did have to go back and reprint, which is not a big deal. So this part is not quite as tedious as it seems. So you are going to cut that font out and you are keeping the outline. You get rid of the actual font so that you have an outline on the paper. Then you want to go and tape it down to wherever you are putting this font. So I just taped it down with painter's tape, and then you just use something like a pencil or a pen to draw in that outline. I used a Sharpie. Do not do that. You'll see why later, unfortunately. So here's what it looked like. It's just a very rough little sketch of the font. Anytime you use a paint pen, you want to get it going on a piece of paper beforehand and get it running smooth. And then you also want to keep that piece of paper close by so that you can use it to get it at the consistency that you want without having to do that on your project and potentially ruining it by having too much paint. Okay, another tip. Especially if you don't like your handwriting and you don't feel like you are good at doing pretty penmanship, look at it as shapes and small sections of lines. So I will even do it out of order so that I don't fall into doing my own handwriting. So if you look here, like I'm seeing that little loop as just a little loop. I'm seeing that line as just a little line. I am not thinking of this as an S. I'm not going around it as an S. I'm just doing a little line. And then you will end up staying where you should be with this font and not falling into any of your own handwriting patterns. Okay, and this is why you shouldn't use a Sharpie. I had to go over this so many times to cover up the Sharpie, and then the black from the Sharpie kept getting on my paint pen. It was such a headache. So make sure that you don't use a Sharpie. I mean, it worked out in the end. It was fine, but it just made for extra steps. I had to go over it over and over again. So here's what it looked like. Again, I eyeball things. So to me, I'm like, oh, this doesn't really look that in the middle because, of course, I didn't check. So I ended up painting just a little wildflower on the side so that it just looked a little bit more even for me. I just went to Google and images and found a little wildflower. So there it is. That's how you do it.